Namaskaram, my dear friends, I am back. Today's going to be an interesting topic. As we all know, we can be in situations, well, for me at least, most of the time, I am in situations where I am surrounded by, for me, unfamiliar seekers. You may ask what unfamiliar seekers is. This is just words I put together that means other human beings that are seeking consciously or unconsciously that is unfamiliar to my way of seeking. So basically, non-Isha meditators. But what I'm trying to say is, like what Sadhguru said, everyone is seeking, maybe consciously or unconsciously, in different ways. And we can never dismiss that because, first, it's never a race. And if it is a race, we would never know if they're actually doing better than us. So we just have to respect each individual's process. So I brought this up because it's just interesting to be in a workplace where they find the things that I do or the things that I talk about to be weird for them. So I am the unfamiliar seeker in their sphere. I'll just share this with you because maybe you'll get a laugh out of it. So first is religion as a topic of conversation. So if you have a new office mate at work and I get to be introduced, they would say, "Oh, and this is ma'am, and she's Buddhist, right, ma'am? Buddhist?" And I'm like, right. It's very similar to being Hindu. I have told my coworkers that I am Hindu because it's very hard to explain that you're a yoga sadhaka. And they're like, what's that? One time I actually told someone my religion was yoga. And then they just started laughing. I'm like, oh, I cannot do this to myself. So I'm like, oh, I'm Hindu. It kind of brings a little bit of formality in this day and age when yoga is not viewed in our society as a quote unquote some sort of a religion or a thing you follow to reach a place where you want to reach that's beyond this perception. You know what I mean? Yoga. They don't understand yoga. So they'll be like, yoga? Hindu? Oh, you're a Buddhist. Along those lines, that's how I get labeled as. And I'm okay with it. Next, being vegetarian. The comments that I would hear from my coworkers is like, oh, you eat rabbit food. Oh, you eat the food of our food. So basically, it's a very interesting topic because I am very vocal about being vegetarian and why I do so. And some people would listen to it and some people will not. And then they just find it really weird that I'm vegetarian because they're like, oh, where do you get your protein? I'm like, beans? Tofu? And then they would say, but that's not enough. So I think it's just, difference in perspective, and what I've been introduced to through Sadhguru and his grace is different than what they've introduced to. Well, don't get me wrong, because I was introduced to the same things they were introduced to, that, basic source of proteins like eggs, meat, white meat, red meat, and having to try being vegetarian and a different source of protein that's alive and not so much processed. Thankfully, I was able to be given the chance to experiment with that and how my body really processes the different types of protein. And clearly, I will stick to being vegetarian. Protein source, how my body works, how my body functions efficiently. I just can't go back to eating meat. And maybe, they're not given the chance to be able to experiment with that yet. Maybe it's not in their sphere or not in their interest to do so. But like what Sadhguru said, they will get there. They will get there. Another thing is meditation, because I can get really busy at work. Sometimes I have to do my Shoonya at work. And when we go to other places, I have to be around my coworkers. When I do Shoonya, I just tell them, okay, I need to meditate. And when they first saw me, they feel like I'm just napping at work. And then like, yes, I am napping at work for 15 minutes. You have a problem with that? And I guess they can't really, they really can't complain about it because I am adamant about doing it. And because they've seen it constantly, they just don't question it anymore. And then I'm like, every time we would go out on lunch, like as the whole team, I'd be like, oh, I need to go meditate first. Or they would be like, oh, we're having lunch today. You're gonna meditate? I'm like, yeah. So I feel like, if you introduce it to them, that it has become a rhythm to you. it has become a rhythm to me. People will be very understanding about the whole process. Meditation may be weird to them, but they accept it. Another interesting thing that they find weird about me is my topics of conversation that I open up to them. I talk a lot about death, samsara, being rebirth over and over again. Because the normal questions I would ask people is, do you think there's a God? Or do you think there's heaven? Or what do you think is going to happen to you after death? And I would ask that questions to like just acquaintances, not even close friends, just because I think it's a very provocative conversation that actually brings about what people think. And I enjoy that because I would get to know them more. That's why I ask these questions. The answers can be very interesting to every person. You kind of get a glimpse of how they are. So I feel like these questions are very important to ask. I would also explain to them why I eat the way I eat, that it's not about, oh, I love animals, I'm not gonna kill them. Though, yes, it is painful to see animals suffer. For once in my life, I've seen the beginning of a cow being slaughtered. That still marked a trauma in my head, and I could never let go of that. And it's good to constantly remind me that that could have been me. So that can be a reason why I'm being vegetarian, but that's not the number one reason. The number one reason, as we all know, is because our body just functions well with veg than non-veg. I also talk about the moon a lot. I always tell people, oh my god, it's full moon today. Oh my god, it's new moon today. I even told someone in elaborate detail about the lunar eclipse that just recently happened, and then why we shouldn't eat. Because I'm like, oh, it's gonna be 28-day cycle. It's gonna happen in like 3 to 4 hours, and they were like, okay, but I need this order. It needs to happen right now. I'm like, okay, let me go back to work. But I do appreciate with my coworkers, like every time we have gatherings, they remember that I'm vegetarian, so they adjust what they do to cater to me being vegetarian, and I very much appreciate that in them. See, you guys, our humanity's alive. It just needs a little bit of ignition, a little bit of spark. And I think unknowingly, just the way we are, just the way Sadhguru made us, it somehow ignites that in them. I think they may find this weird, but for those people who are open enough to these grays, all they are ears. When I get the chance to talk about Sadhguru, so I ask the questions that I ask to some people that I meet when given the chance, when they're open enough to my talking, to my speeches, to whatever I say, inevitably Sadhguru would come out and I would send them links of YouTube videos, of books of Sadhguru. And I am just happy that I get to do that because of the grace that Sadhguru is able to make so potent for us to feel. That's what I've said, that ignition that we allow people just to strike that spark in them could make wonders. So even if I'm not in the ashram, even if I don't think I'm doing the best right now for my daughter because of geographical locations, even if I think I may not be doing enough, I'm still so grateful that somehow I get to do small things that could be impactful in other people's lives. So I wish to continuously do this, be Sadhguru soldier, to be able to at least touch people the way he wants me to. Just that initial touch, and he do the rest. Sadhguru's better at it. I just pull them maybe a little closer, and then Sadhguru, take the line. But yes, you guys, these are things that my coworkers think I'm weird, but because some transformation have happened in me, where I think some sweetness just overflows, they can't deny me the space of being who I am. And that's all because of Sadhguru. Namaskaram.